Don't you love a snuggly little puppy? I know I do. And I also love series of books that I can race through one after another. That's why the book I'm starting today from the Oosterhout Free Library Book Bites series is Goldie, the first in the Puppy Place series. Puppy Place, where every puppy finds a home. It's written by Ellen Miles, published by Scholastic, and I'm Miss Melissa. Today I'm going to start it on my phone, the free Cloud Library app, because our paper copy is checked out right now. You can download the free app from our website. Charles woke up with a bad feeling in his stomach. Why? For a minute he couldn't figure it out. Then he rolled over and looked at his clock. It was 3:46 a.m. and Charles could hear the loud dee 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 of his dad's pager going off. Mr. Peterson was a volunteer firefighter. When his pager went off, there was a fire somewhere in town. Charles listened to his dad's footsteps going downstairs. Then he heard the slam of a truck door and an engine starting up. He lay there for a while, worrying a little. He decided to stay awake until his dad came home, but he must have fallen asleep, because when he woke up again, the sun was shining, and as the clock said, it was 7:16 a.m. Charles rubbed his eyes and climbed out of bed. Then he raced down to the kitchen and looked out the window. Dad's red pickup truck was not in the driveway. Mom was making French toast while the Bean, Charles's little brother, crawled around on the floor by her feet. The smell of cinnamon made Charles's mouth water. Is Dad? Charles began. Dad's fine, Mom said. He called a little while ago. There was a big fire, but everybody's okay. Charles let out a big breath. It was cool to have a fireman dad, but scary sometimes too. He'll be home soon, Mom told Charles. Where was the fire? Asked Lizzie, scuffing her slippers as she shuffled into the kitchen. She rubbed her eyes and yawned. Lizzie was Charles's older sister. It always took her a long time to wake up. Out at a farm in Middleton, Mom said. At this, Lizzie's eyes popped open. Were any animals hurt? She said. Mom shook her head. I don't think so. She flipped a slice of French toast. Set the table, okay? Mom asked. That proved that everything was okay. What could be more normal than doing chores? Since there was no reason to worry, Charles decided to ask his favorite question, the one he asked every single morning. So why can't we have a dog? He asked. His mother sighed. Again? She pulled the orange juice out of the fridge and filled 4 glasses, and then the Bean's purple sippy cup. Do we have to talk about this every day? Only until we get a dog, Lizzie said with a sleepy smile. First you said we couldn't have a dog because our apartment was too small, Charles reminded his mom. Then we moved to this big old house, and now there's plenty of room. He followed Lizzie around the table, putting a fork onto every napkin she laid down. But instead of adopting a dog, we adopted the Bean. Charles looked down at the Bean. Sometimes Charles could hardly remember the Bean's real name. It was Adam. But they had called him the Bean ever since he came to live with them when he was a tiny, squirmy baby. Just a little Bean, Mr. Peterson had said, and the name stuck. The Bean grinned up at Charles and made a little woofy noise. Even though he thinks he's a dog, he's not, Charles pointed out. He's just a kid who likes to crawl around on the floor, beg for food, and sleep on a fleece dog bed. And carry his stuffed toys in his mouth, Lizzie added. It's a phase, their mom said, the way she always did. He'll get over it by the time he's 17, Charles finished, the way their dad always did. It was their dad's favorite joke. Their mom didn't think it was so funny. Anyway, Charles continued, back then you said a baby and a dog were too much at once. You said we had to wait until the Bean was older. Well, now he is. He's 2.5. He's not a baby anymore. No, he's not, agreed his mother, a little sadly. She loved babies and kittens, just not puppies. Mr. Peterson always joked about his wife being a cat person, not a dog person. Mrs. Peterson always said she didn't see anything wrong with that. She had grown up with cats and she was used to cats. But the other family members were not interested in cats. The rest of the family loved dogs. So, why can't we get a puppy? Charles and Lizzie asked together. Jinx, Charles said to Lizzie, owe me a favor. You clear the table after we eat. Lizzie stuck out her tongue. Charles grinned. He always said Jinx first. We will have a puppy, their mother said, someday, when the time is right and the puppy is right. But when will that be? Charles asked. When I'm 17? Sometimes he felt as if he'd waited forever for a dog. It wasn't fair. Everybody else had dogs, and no one wanted one more than Charles and Lizzie and the bean. Nobody would take better care of a dog, or teach it as many great tricks, or love it as much as they would. We'll know, Mom said. When the time is right, we'll know. She had that tone in her voice, the tone that meant it was time to change the subject. But Lizzie didn't seem to notice. If we had a dog, we'd all feel better, she said. Did you know that dog owners are happier, healthier, and more relaxed than people who don't have dogs? Plus, having a dog teaches kids responsibility, and a dog can help to protect the house and save people from fires. Mom held up both hands. Enough, she cried. I've heard all your facts before, Lizzie, and I know they're all true. I also know that puppies are a lot of work and cause a lot of mess and trouble. She turned back to the skillet on the stove. Charles knew what she was thinking. Dogs shed fur all over the place. They chew things. They knock over garbage cans. They bark. There were a lot of reasons for not getting a dog. Mom didn't have to spell it out anymore. This time, even Lizzie seemed to understand that the subject was closed. She slid into her seat and picked up the newspaper. Cool, Mom, she said. Your story about the school board meeting is on the front page. I bet Mr. Baker will ask me to write about this fire, wherever it was, Mom said. Mr. Baker was the editor of the Littleton News and Mrs. Peterson's boss. She wiped her hands on a towel. I'll give him a call as soon as your dad gets home. She looked at the clock. I'm surprised Dad's not here already. I guess we better start breakfast without him, or you two will be late for school. I hope he gets here before we have to go, said Charles. Mom piled 2 plates with French toast and brought them to the table. Then she cut up another piece and put the beans plate on the floor next to Charles's feet. Charles had noticed she had given up trying to make the beans sit in his high chair. Maple syrup, she offered, passing the bottle to Charles. Charles poured a big glug of syrup onto his toast. Then he remembered his new joke. Charles told a joke almost every morning. Hey! Knock, knock, he said. Watch the syrup, said Mom. You're supposed to say, who's there, he reminded her. Then he looked down at his plate. Oops. The syrup had practically drowned his French toast. Mom sighed and held out her hand for the bottle. Who's there? She asked. The interrupting cow, Charles said. The Mom began, but before she could finish, Charles jumped in. Moo! He cracked up. Get it? He asked. The interrupting cow? Charles had only taken one bite of his breakfast when he heard his dad's pickup pull into the driveway. A minute later, Dad trudged into the kitchen. His shoulders were slumped and his face was smudged with soot, and his hair was all flattened from being underneath his helmet. Dad! Cried Lizzie, jumping up to hug him. Hey, Pumpkin, he said tiredly. Charles noticed a big bulge underneath his dad's jacket. What's that? He asked, pointing. Then he noticed that the bulge was moving. Charles came closer. The bulge was squiggling and squirming all over the place. Dad smiled and pulled the zipper of his coat down a few inches. Meet Goldie, he said. Charles saw 2 chocolate-brown eyes, a pair of floppy ears, and a twitching black nose, and a furry golden face, all streaked with soot. A puppy! Charles yelled. What? Mom stared at Dad. He didn't look back at her. Yup, he said to Charles. It's a puppy, a golden retriever. She's only about 10 weeks old. I don't think she's hurt, but she's a pretty scared little girl. The puppy peeked out at this new place. She wanted to explore and run and sniff and taste, but first, was it safe? She had to know. Carefully, Charles moved closer. Very slowly, he put his hand up near the puppy's nose so she could sniff him. She's beautiful, he whispered. Doggy! Yelled the being. The puppy flinched at the loud noise. It's okay, Charles told her softly. You're safe. Paul, Mom began. Charles could tell by his mom's voice that his dad had not told her about the puppy. I know, Betsy, Dad said, holding up his hand. I should have asked first. But she's such a little thing, and she's been through so much. He pulled out a chair and sat down. The puppy peered from his jacket with big, frightened eyes. Lizzie was staring at the little dog. She's the cutest thing I ever saw, she said finally. We're going to keep her, right? The grown-ups looked at each other. You never know what your parents are going to say. We'll find out next Wednesday on Book Bites from the Oosterhout Free Library.